Alexis is a solutions engineer. She's been with Cisco for about 4 years and recently finished a 100-day challenge to post content every day on LinkedIn. And she had amazing results, which she posted the other day. She did 100 posts. She grew her following by 11,000 and had over 3.6 million impressions. So when you talk about scale and having impact, I think what Alexis is doing exemplifies that. She has 21,000 followers on LinkedIn, and she goes by digital.byte on TikTok with 20,000 followers, and digital.byte, and I noticed the underscore on Instagram with almost 20,000
Someone
followers.
stole.
So somebody already stole that, right? And you've done all that in less than a year, right, Alexis? Yeah, so that's fantastic. So I'd like to welcome Alexis to the program and really just start a conversation about her journey on creating content so that we all may benefit and learn from it. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey and what led you to start creating content?
Yeah, no, absolutely, John. Thanks so much for having me on. It's kind of funny how I got started. So, one of my mentors, Sal Lamora, you guys might know him as Cisco Sal. He's had a YouTube channel for a few years, and back in the beginning of 2021, Cisco had decided to stand up their first TikTok channel. And a couple marketing reps had reached out to him for help creating content because, as we know, some of the trends and jokes and memes that are shared online, it's hard to create memes for engineers if you're not an engineer. Right. And so the marketing team had reached out for some help creating content that was more relevant to their audience. And Sal pulled me in. He was like, look, I'm not on TikTok, but my mentee Alexis might be. And actually, at the time, I wasn't on TikTok either. I was resisting downloading the app because I knew how addicting it would be. But I assumed, I was like, this would be a great opportunity. I'll download it, whatever. I only have to make a couple videos. And they were just little memes and voiceovers here and there. But, the nature of these platforms is to be addicting, for better or for worse. So both on the consumer and creator side, the more content you create, the more likes you get, the more followers you get, the more you want to create. Same way, like, when you find a funny viral video, you want to keep scrolling because you want that next little hit of dopamine. So eventually I was creating so many videos that were so technical. The Cisco marketing team was like, look, our audience, I don't think our audience is going to understand this. Can you make it more simple? And I was like, no, it's a joke for engineers. And so I created a burner account called Digital Byte. That's what it originally was a burner. Because I was like, I created this content. I want someone to see it. And if marketing's not going to use it, I'm just going to post it on this burner account. And if it does good, it does good. And then I can be like, hey, marketing, look, it did good. You should post it. And eventually, my memes were so technical and so specific, people figured out that I was a Cisco SE. And started asking me questions in the comments that were completely unrelated to anything I was posting. Hey, I'm upgrading the switch. What do you recommend? Hey, does Meraki support FIPS? All these technical questions that were clearly coming from customers. And my job as a Cisco solutions engineer is to answer customer questions. I started making videos, replying to their questions. Those were my first talking videos. And the more I made, I realized there was a lot of customers that don't know who their Cisco SE is or don't have an assigned SE or have any sort of technical support. And so the content I was preparing for my customers, if I was going to make any sort of presentation to give to them or writing emails around recent Cisco announcements, I started packaging that up and putting it online as well to help support customers that, again, don't have that level of support.
So you really found a niche. And I think, sometimes marketing, there's I call it traditional marketing. Then there is sort of what we do, which is you find a niche and then you can really target that niche. And since you're part of that community, you can really create content that they could relate to. Now, were you fearful when you were creating your first pieces of content? I read, I guess, in one of your posts that initially you were there was a fear of just talking on your videos rather than just memes. Right?
Yeah. I mean, no one likes to hear their own voice. I can't say I've ever rewatched a podcast I've been on. I can tolerate my voice in like 30-second to 2-minute clips, maybe not for like 40 minutes to an hour. But it's the same fear that anyone has when they're recording themselves, you know. You don't like the way your hair looks, you don't like the way your voice sounds. Everyone has their filler words that they use, and you're watching yourself back and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
post
Yeah.
that, right? And eventually, you know, by exposure therapy, I got used to
Hmm.
it. But it is, you know, that is one of the most difficult parts of getting started is just becoming comfortable recording yourself and being on
And it
video.
takes a lot of practice. I know that even to this day, when I record videos, there's a lot of takes. And I think if people ever saw all the outtakes, you know, they'd be amazed at the amount of work that goes into it. The final product looks great typically, but
Oh, it's all
it's all
editing.
editing, right? And so I think a lot of people don't realize that. And the key is to just get started, right? And don't expect perfection the first time out because you're not going to have it, right? So,
Right. And the other thing I like to tell newer creators or people who are interested in getting started is just remember that people are coming to these platforms to connect with
yeah.
other people. Like you never want to sign on and see something that's like the super branded
Mhm.
ad. They're coming to the platform to connect with Alexis or connect with
Mhm.
John. And they like you are a real
Right.
human. Real humans make mistakes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be authentic.
Yeah, I released a video yesterday. And I kept some mistakes in there what I would have normally gone back and fixed because it's about the authenticity, right? And like you said, I find that things that are overproduced get a lot less traction than things that are, you know, more, from
Or
more down to
off
earth
the
and
cuff.
off the cuff. Exactly. Um, so one of the things that I am curious about is your creative process, right? You know, the fact that you did 100 posts in 100 days. What's that like? Do you batch? How do you come up with the ideas? How long does it take you to actually produce? Because that seems like a heavy task.
Yeah, it there, you know, when you're doing 100 posts in 100 days, there's definitely a lot of time that goes into it. I was writing for anywhere from an hour to 2 hours a
Mm,
night, depending on, you know, what kind of post it was, how long it took you to come up with the idea. And of course, there's always, you're trying to get started
yeah,
writing and you're just sitting there staring at the keyboard, right? And you write a sentence and delete it, and you write a sentence and delete it. And that, you know, I'm not going to lie, that happens a lot
mhm,
too. If you can batch content, batching content is definitely the way that you should do it. I think I was able to batch for about the first three
mm,
weeks, where I would create 2 or 3 posts every time I sat down. Especially if I was traveling on the weekend, I would try to make sure I had stuff lined up. But you know, life
don't get
life
in the way.
happens. Stuff would come up at work. You know, work comes first, customers come first. And the deeper I got into the challenge, I think I wrote in my 100-day wrap up, you know, I wanted to quit on days like 13,
Yeah.
27, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. I mean, there was 10-day spans in there where every single night I sat down, I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. But if you can batch, that's the best thing to do. And I found that personally something that's helpful. I'll batch ideas,
Hmm.
right? So you're never starting with a blank piece of paper. You always have a running list of ideas, and I'll pull inspiration from presentations I'm on with my specialists, customers that email me questions. I'll pull inspo from those. The Cisco blogs,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's the ones that marketing officially put out, Thousand Eyes, Umbrella, Duo, like, you know, all of these products have different blogs. There's industry specific blogs. Tech Target has a great one. CERN has another good one. So I would try to pull topics off of those just because, you know, it's what's trending in the industry. Obviously, CERN and Tech Target have a lot more money and
Right.
marketing budget than I do to put behind, you know, to put into research of what people are interested in. And so I would try to play off of those. And, you know, also once you get going, you'll get questions in the
Mhm.
comments. Every good question is a new
Yeah.
post. So it's something that kind of, once you get started, it's easier to keep going.
And I think in our jobs, and especially as an SE, you're learning something new every day. And so that's an opportunity to transfer that knowledge and break it down so that people can understand. So I think if you look at content creation that way, as you learn something new, you just want to impart that knowledge on your audience and look for ways to engage them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other thing. I've had a lot of people come and say, why me? Why should I be doing this? I'm not the best, the smartest, the most eloquent speaker. Like there's other people who have already made videos on, you know, how to route with BGP or, Cisco SDA. There's a ton of information, there's a ton of white papers, there's a ton of YouTube videos. Like all of this has been done before better by someone else. Why should I put that out there too? And the thing is, like, no one else has your experience, your background, your voice, right? And when people are learning, we gravitate to our favorite
Yeah.
influencers or podcasters or YouTubers for their personality and the way that they
Mhm.
speak and the way that they act. Like everyone has different preferences. And so, the way that you might explain it might make sense to someone more than anything that's already out
That's right.
there.
Yeah, I think so. I think it just becomes, again, to use that word again, more authentic, personable, things that people can relate to. So you've been creating a lot of content. What have been some of the personal and or professional benefits that you've reaped from all this content you've been creating?
Yeah. So it's definitely helped me professionally and personally get my name out
Mhm.
there. I've been able to connect with a lot of people in the network engineering community. I think, especially working at a large tech company, like we get stuck in our Cisco
Yeah,
bubble. But I've been able to connect with SEs from, all different companies, from engineers at many different customers, and get their take on, different Cisco announcements, hear what they're really thinking about it. Because sometimes when you're talking to your actual customers, they won't tell you what they really think because you're their Cisco SE. And so by developing other relationships outside in the community, you can get more of an unfiltered take on what's really going on, which just helps you be a better engineer.
I think also one of the keys to your success and the increase in your following is that you put some of your personal life out there, and you've made it no secret that you're looking to move, right? Your boyfriend's moving down south
Mhm.
and you're looking for a job. Has having your name out there and been sort of, with 20,000 people as an audience, is that helping you in your search for a new position?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's all who you know.
Hmm.
And I've made a couple of videos about this on TikTok and LinkedIn. But one thing with starting a personal brand is don't wait for when you
Yeah.
need it. Right? We're in this season of tech layoffs. There's a lot of uncertainty out there in the market. I mean, I wake up every day and I see posts on LinkedIn with people who have been job
Yeah.
searching for 3 months, and they're like, I've applied to 160 jobs. I haven't gotten a single call back. And it's absolutely heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
Especially if they're a seasoned professional, they have a family, like, it's tough. It's tough out there. And I was blessed. I mean, I still have a great job at Cisco. I just need to relocate. And so I made that post. I received over 200 comments. I got 140 direct
Wow.
messages from everything from VPs that wanted to open roles for
Mm.
me, our partner community or the Cisco partner community, and then other engineers, right? Just other SEs that wanted me to meet their manager,
Yeah.
come talk to their team because they like my content and they wanted to help support me. And that's something, again, like developing relationships, developing online relationships. It's just something that's, invaluable that you can do as a professional because you never know. You just never know.
Yeah, I'll tell you the impact of a friend of mine. He used to work for Cisco, but now works for a competitor. And when he saw what you post, he's like, "I'm going to steal Alexis from Cisco." So, but I won't tell you who that is.
We, we talked last week.
Oh, you did? He spoke to you? Okay. All right. Cool. Um, so we've covered a lot. You're creating content. You're getting benefits from it. How do you measure the impact of success? Are you looking at statistics across the different platforms? Are you measuring those against yourself? How do you judge and view, the statistics and metrics of success?
I, you know, I should be. I really should be looking at analytics. Every social media platform gives you your top trending
Right.
content, and you can see how many views and likes and engagement, and you can measure all of those things. Transparently, like I'm so busy in my day job, even just keeping up with, putting content out there consistently is a struggle. And I haven't really had time yet to dig into the analytics. I've heard from other creators that analyze it heavily,
Yeah.
right? Like they've written scripts to manually pull their data out of each platform. And every week they comb through the best performing and they,
Gotta
iterate
adjust
based
based
off
on
what their
that. Yeah.
audience wants to see. I haven't done any of that. I create content that I find interesting and that I like making. And when something pops off, it's cool. When something doesn't, I try to take a note of like, okay, how could I tweak this post in the future? Does it need a better hook?
Yeah.
Did the way I explain it just not make sense? Was the photo not right? I'll try to think about things like that, but I don't put too much time into analyzing analytics. Um, I do have a folder I keep of like social media wins. When other SEs, like I just had an SE reach out to me yesterday, actually, he pinged me that his customer was having a TAC issue. And he was like, I remembered you created this great document on TAC best practices. And so I was able to go to your LinkedIn page, pull it down, and send it to the customer. I keep a folder of those, SEs helping SEs, engineers who
At the end of the day, that's real impact, right?
yeah, I try to take screenshots of like impactful
Yeah.
DMs or comments that people leave me, and I save
Mm-hmm.
those. But as far as metrics or anything, I don't really keep that close of an eye.
And so I think you mentioned something that's also important, which is the engagement aspect, right? So it's not only how many views you have, but how engaged is your audience. Do you structure your postings to try and drive engagement? And if so, what are some of the tips you have around that?
Yeah, engagement to me is one of the most important things, and there's a analogy that's really great to think about. You could have 20. I'm going to take mine for example. You could have 20,000 followers, but if only 100 people are listening, you might as well have 100. It's the difference between speaking to an auditorium of people and like having every single one actually care. So, engagement to me is something that's really important. You do just by nature of these platforms, you do have to structure your content to be engaging, enticing, right?
Mhm.
Writing a hook is really good. Writing a good call to action, asking good questions for your audience is something that's important. You could have the best content in the world, but if it's not easy to
Mhm.
consume and it's not going to hook their attention right away, no one's going to sit through it, right? So, in addition to making sure it's good
Right.
information, you also have to structure it
Yeah.
correctly.
So I know we're a little short on time because we both have day jobs while we're doing this, right? So I wanted to do two more things. One was
Sure.
any advice for someone who's just looking to get started?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Pick my biggest thing is just pick a platform, right? And don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just because I was successful on LinkedIn with video doesn't mean that you have to make videos on
Right.
LinkedIn. If you're more of a writer, you can write posts, you can do tweets. If you like videos, you can do TikTok, you can do Instagram. If you like longer form content, right? I like to keep all my videos under 3 minutes long because again, I'm a generalist
Yeah.
SE. I cover every Cisco solution. It's very rare that I dive into the weeds. And so I find myself more comfortable with short form
Mhm.
content. If you're a long form girly, right, go post a 15-minute demo
Yeah.
on YouTube. Like do
Yeah.
that. But the biggest thing is create in the way that's most natural to you and in the way that you consume content. So again, I consumed a lot of short form video on TikTok. So I started on TikTok. I was afraid of showing my face, so I made CapCut memes. Like literally I made memes because I didn't like
Mhm.
speaking. And one thing led to another, here we are, but I didn't start cross posting content on all four platforms daily. I started making memes on TikTok. So just lowering the barrier to entry for yourself to get started and meet yourself where you're at.
And it's amazing where you start isn't where you end, right? So you started with being
Mhm.
afraid to speak, hearing the sound of your own voice, and now most of your videos are you speaking, right?
I hardly do
Yeah.
memes.
Yeah. So it is an
Yeah.
opportunity to grow. All right. So this last section, I just wanted to do it's sort of a fast comment section, right? And what I did was
Sure.
to capture all your lessons learned, your 9 lessons learned as a result of posting for the 100 days. So I'm just going to throw out the title of each one that you had and just give a little bit of
Okay.
a comment for each one. And so the first one
Sure.
that you had, it's not that deep.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that deep. Again, realistically, your content is 15 seconds of someone's day. People have such a short attention span. They're getting so much more thrown at
Mhm.
them. Don't overthink it. Because again, yeah, it's not that deep. As long as you're not, again, caveat, don't publish wrong
Well, that
information, right? Make sure especially if you're posting engineering content, make sure it's correct and factual. But at the end of the day, it's not that deep.
and if you post wrong stuff, I'm sure you will get flamed, right? The second one is you don't have to be an expert.
Learning as you go is the biggest hack out there. I meant to mention this before, but a lot of people, they'll come to me and say, like, it's been done by other people with more expertise who explain it better. Why should I create? But again, no one else learns the way that you do, or explains it the way that you do. And so learning as you go, teaching others is the best way to learn. So if you're teaching others as you're learning, you're going to learn things more deeply and remember them better.
That's what I found too. Like if you have to prepare to demonstrate something, you're going to know it inside and out. So the next time you have to do it, you're just going to know it. Number 3,
Mhm.
followers don't mean
They don't. Again, it goes back to that point we talked about earlier of having an engaged audience,
Mhm.
right? Um, if you could have 100,000 followers, but if only 10 of them actually care about what you're saying, it doesn't matter. I've met other creators and starting creators that have 200,000 followers, and they're really struggling to make money because they're posting for virality. Maybe they don't have a lot of clients. I've met creators with 5,000 followers that are pulling in, 20 grand a
Yeah.
month because they've got a successful business on the back end, and those 5,000 followers hang on every word that they
Right.
write. So having people who truly care about your content and your messaging and you is like way more impactful at the end of the day.
All right. Good advice. Number 4, it's good for the plot.
Yeah, it's good for the plot. So every post doesn't, people get so hung up on virality, right? They want that one viral post. But the thing is, a lot of your content is going to be a supporting
Yeah.
act, right? When you're reading a book, not every chapter is exciting. Some chapters are just to build the plot for that one really exciting chapter, right? And it's going to make that one way more impactful. But your posts are the same way. Like some of them are just good for the plot.
So you're telling a story, and that is dependent on being consistent, right? So if you're not consistent, people are going to lose track of a plot. But if you're consistent, you can tell a story across multiple postings.
Well, and again, the key with social media, remember people have a short
Yeah.
attention span. So it's not always about doing, I don't mean like part 1, part 2, part
Yeah.
3, part 4, part 5. No one's going to remember. But when you're looking at the theme that you have as a creator, right? I post a lot about IT and network engineering, right? Not every single post I post is going to go
Right.
viral, but some of them are supporting
Yeah.
acts.
They build on one another. Number 6, I
Yep.
think we talked about this. Authenticity is key.
Yeah. Being yourself, figuring out how to be yourself and not be like a corporate robot.
Mhm.
No one wants to see a branded
Yeah.
advertisement. It's the reason that companies are starting to invest more in user generated content. Um, no one wants to watch an ad. So don't make yourself an ad. Just be you.
Consistency over everything.
So showing up, and this one, a caveat here, it has to be consistently
Yeah.
good. You will consistently improve, but if you're just writing anything just to write, I mean, writing anything is better than writing nothing, but make sure that what you're writing is getting you closer to your
Yeah.
goal. Even on the days that I was really struggling to put something out there, I was still trying to make sure that my content was either educational, inspirational, or entertaining, right? Those are the three reasons that people enjoy content on social. Um, and so, even if you're really struggling to get something out, try to look at what you wrote and be like, okay, where does this funnel back to? Is it going to help someone learn something? Is it going to give them a quick laugh? Or is it going to inspire them to take action? Right. So looking at those three buckets and making sure that you're really targeting
Yeah,
one.
I love those three buckets as a guideline. Number 8, we're almost home. Create for you.
Yeah. Create things that you like, because if you're just creating things you think you should be creating, you're going to burn out and not be consistent. Again, it goes back to analytics, right? We were talking about analytics and John asked, how closely do you pay attention to that? And I was like, I just like things. I make things I like to talk about. If you're talking about things you hate, eventually you're not going to want to do it anymore. And also create content that you would actually consume. If you make a video and that came up on your timeline and you wouldn't watch it all the way through, no one else is going to watch it all the way through either. You just wasted 4 hours of your time editing it. So make it in a way that you would find entertaining, and other people will too.
All right, last one. I'm surprised you didn't come up with 10. You only came up with 9, but that's okay. 9 was the real value is in community.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to that engagement, right? Engagement is key. I would rather have 100 followers and be super close with every follower and, be able to engage with them and banter back and forth than have 10,000 followers and have like 2 people actually care what I'm saying. Leading on the community to get a pulse on what they care about, how you can give back, how you can help others. Ultimately, like I said, it's not like what goes around comes back around, but it's like good karma. You're doing something to help the community, and when you need something, the community will be there to support you too. It's like the best part about creating content is you're creating a community of people who also like things that you like, right?
Yeah, that interaction is so important, and you feed from it in terms of people coming to you for advice, you learning from them as well. It makes the whole experience worthwhile. So
Yeah.
I know we all have day jobs. I think we're about almost 30 minutes in, so it's certainly not less than 3 minutes. So I've gone 10 times beyond your typical content creation. But I think there were excellent nuggets in here for anyone who's looking to get started. And so, Alexis, I'd love to thank you for being my first guest on this topic. Absolutely. And giving us some insight, and with the hope that we're going to help to inspire others to, hey, just take that leap and start creating content. And, then you can learn how to reap the benefits of doing that. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned, but I think the key is just get started. Any last words before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Just get started. Right. Don't overthink it. It's not that deep.
Yeah, it's not that deep. I love it. Thanks again. Take care, everybody.